Hi guys, it's Wombat hauling on the Grand Utopia map in DirectX 11 on 1.35, the experimental beta. This one works. I thought I'd do an update video and try to answer some of the questions I received in the last video. I'm not surprised that a lot of people had questions afterwards, after all the video and what I had to say there. Didn't sound like much or anything at all works on 1.35. There's a couple of things I need to say about that. First of all, 1.35 is a new major update, and whenever there is a new major update, that in itself causes a lot of maps to stop working, and a lot of maps always, when a major release gets out, needs updates of some sort. A ton of maps crashes. This is something that happened with 1.34, 1.33, 1.32, and it goes on and on. This happens every time. So that is the first thing. We need to expect that a lot of maps don't work. The big difference between 1.35 and any other previous update, major update of the game, is of course DirectX 11. Now, I've only tested maps so far, and I have now completed my tests of maps on 1.35 using DX11. And I guess it's not that surprising really that there are more standalone maps than add-on maps that works with 1.35 DX11. First of all, add-on maps hooks up with the base map and the DLCs and whatever, and has to work not only with the new major version but also with whatever changes SES made to their maps. So in some cases that could mean that the game loads, but there are different things, assets, prefabs that have changed, or if your mod is placed somewhere in Germany, they made huge changes to Germany, so yeah, the risk of your map crashing if you are located in Germany is pretty huge. So there's really no surprises there, and especially considering that the standalone maps still requires a lot of prefabs and things like that to work, but they don't necessarily have to work with all the prefabs that SES provides us with. Don't need all the models. It might use some of them, and if you're a little bit lucky, they only use prefabs and models and things like that that still are available in game. Of course, if any map mod, but that is not unique to standalone maps, it is something you see with add-on maps as well. If they add their own models and prefabs and things, the risk of them crashing now that we have DX11 increases. But that is something you see on both types of game maps. So this is something that happens every time, but with DirectX 11 it's even trickier, because if you bring in your own material, then it has to be updated for DX11, and in a lot of cases they haven't been. Of course, the DLC and the DLCs and the base map have those updated already, but maps that uses them, add-on maps, they might very well have problems, and so does map mods that brings their own prefabs and things like that. So there's really no surprise that we have a ton of problems this time. It doesn't mean that nothing works. I have so far only tested my maps and combos on DX11. And what I will do now is that since I have completed my testing of maps on DX11, I'm gonna go back to DX9 and start all over again, because I don't want you guys to feel that it's a horrible dark age we are entering now with SCS and ETS and ATS. On the contrary, I don't believe we are in the dark at all. I think that this is the start of a bright, very, very bright new future. So what I will do is that I'll go back and start working on DX9 and see what maps work with DX9, and my guess is a lot of them do. But for this video I'm going to answer the questions you had, and I'll bring you the latest updates on what map mods work. To start with what is working, we have this one, the Grand Utopia. I'm a little bit surprised that it works. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm very, very pleased to see that it works. As you know, it's a fantasy map, and it's probably one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful map out there at the moment. It's absolutely fantastic. It's gorgeous. Of course, never mind the tearing and the horrible graphics. That is, well, the missing NVIDIA Inspector settings. I really want them back, and I want the tearing to go away. I'm really fed up with it, but other than that, we also have the Iran map working. I have done a video review of that, and I will try to link to my video reviews of the maps that are working, that I have done reviews of. So Iran works. The Greece map works as well, and I spent a lot of time there because the Greece map is two Greek maps that were combined into one, so I had to hold on both parts of the map, and I spent a couple of hours there, and it seems to work just fine as well. There is also the Legionnaire map. I haven't done a video review of the Legionnaire map. I might do one now, when considering that it works with DX11. It is a fantasy map. It's one of those difficult maps to haul on with some bonkers. It's not my cup of tea really, but you have these extremely difficult roads to haul on. They are very unrealistic. You have very, very, very steep hills. You have bunkers, roads. I'd probably do a video review of it. My initial thought was that I wasn't gonna do a review of it because honestly I don't like the map, but that's me personally. But now that we know that it works on DX11, I might actually do one. So let's see what happens with that. And there is one last map, I mentioned it yesterday, that also works. I will release my video review of that shortly. I also want to address some of the questions I received yesterday and after my latest video was released. What do we do to prevent ETS and ATS from updating? At the moment you don't have to do anything. 1.35 is still in the experimental beta. It's gonna be an experimental beta for at least, I'm gonna say, 4 weeks now. When we move to the open beta, it's still nothing that your game will be updated to immediately. It won't. And we're gonna be on the open beta for at least a week or two. Sometime, let's see, it's, as of recording, it's the 6th of May. Sometime mid-June, possibly end of June, we might have a official final release of 1.35, but that is a lot of weeks away, and we have no idea what is going to happen with 1.35 from here and on up to the final version of 1.35. So there is no reason to panic, there is no reason to check your settings to see if the game to prevent any updates from happening right now. On the contrary, you want whatever minor updates SCS provides you with. So there is absolutely no reason to panic. Leave it as it is. When we get closer to 1.35, I think possibly, hopefully, all of our questions will be answered. First question is DX11 going to be the default? I can say already that it's not going to be DirectX 11. That is going to be the default setting. DX11 is, and I'm 99.9% sure of this, DX11 is going to be optional. DX11 is going to be there, but the default setting will be DX9. And the reason I believe that is that DX11, since it affects map mods and other mods as well so much, SCS is going to give the community a lot of time to make their maps compatible with DX11. I'm not even sure DX11 is going to be default for 1.36. I'm going to say that for 1.37 it's possible that DX11 is default, but I also think that DX9 will still be then optional, and possibly stay optional up until 1.40 perhaps. So that is what I think will happen. So there is no reason to panic, there is no reason to prevent updates from happening, there is no reason to make any changes to your game as a player. Of course, as a map creator and mod creator, you should probably start looking at, first of all, DX9, make sure that your maps work with 135 on DX9, and as soon as you are comfortable with that, go ahead, start working on DX11. If your map works for DX11, it will work for DX9 as well. DX11 is backwards compatible with DX9, so but I think that the least effort you have to put into it is to make sure that the maps work with DX9 on 135. So as soon as you know that it works with DX9 and 135, that takes off some of the heat, I guess, and you can start focusing on DX11 and make sure that works. I think that version 1.37 or wherever they're gonna switch from default DX9 to DX11 is at least 6 months away. So that gives you all a lot of time to update your mods for DX11. But of course it's a ton of work. It has to be done, and I am concerned about maps like Ross Map, Ross and other mods that aren't updated very often. I'm also worried about map mods that are updated, like Southern Region for instance, but doesn't have that much new, if ever any, new material added to it. It's going to take a huge makeover for map mods to work on DX11. There's a lot of time ahead of you to do it, but it's going to require you to do a lot of work, unless SCS brings out new tools, of course, that allows you to convert whatever needs to be converted. That might happen, and that might make it a lot easier, of course, but we really don't know what's going to happen with that. So to answer some of the questions that came up, or some of the comments I got on my last video, It's going to be interesting to see how the mapping community reacts and which maps are going to work in just some days again. Well, on DirectX 11 there is really no surprises there, and most map mods will work just as soon as 1.35 is released in its final version. DirectX 11 is another story, but let's focus on DX9 for this. A lot of your favorite trailer mods will be gone. Yeah, that happens all the time when a new major release comes out. We lose mods. That's how it's always been. There's nothing new there. But of course, yeah, it's always saddening when your favorite trailer mods disappears. But there will always be new ones. The future looks a little bit sad, and it feels like it's going to take a long time before everything runs again. Yeah, first off, this is the experimental beta, so there is no reason for us to worry yet. There is going to be a long period now from the experimental beta until the final 1.35 has been released. There is no reason to worry. Most things will work when the final version of 1.35 comes out in more than 6 weeks. Someone is joking and saying that this is the end of the ETS2 modding community. It is definitely not. It is a fresh new start for the modding community, perhaps, if we look at DirectX 11, but it's definitely not the end. On the contrary, this is an opportunity. I'm afraid that ETS2 mods will not work anymore because of DirectX 11. That is something that we will see, yes. There are both map mods, truck mods, trailer mods, traffic mods, graphic mods, things like that. That will not work once DirectX 11 is your only choice. But we are probably 6 months away from that. There are mods that will never be updated for DirectX 11, so yeah, there are mods that won't work, but there will also be new mods, and I think that most mods will be updated for DirectX 11 at some point. Gonna take a lot of work on the mod community to get things back up as they are on 134. Maps, trailer mods, truck mods, etc. But DirectX 11 is here, so we all have to move with it. Yes, that is absolutely true. That is precisely what we have to do. And again, it's going to take a lot of time before DirectX 11 is your only choice. Would it be wise to turn off automatic updates? That is something I've been asked a lot since my last video, and the answer is no. There is absolutely no reason to turn off automatic updates as of recording for the next 6 weeks at least. There will not be an official final update of 1 to 1.35 in less than at least 6 weeks, so don't worry about it. DirectX 11 is broken for me, changes the config file, but it's still running DX9. Yes, that is something that a lot of people have been experiencing. Can't really say why it doesn't work for everyone, at least not why it doesn't work for those of you who are on an updated OS and have a fairly new hardware. Shouldn't have any problems running DX11, but of course if you are running Windows 7 you won't be able to run DX11. You need Windows 8 at least, and you do need Windows, and if you are using OpenGL because you're running Linux or Mac perhaps, well yeah, you don't have DirectX on those. And on older hardware, could be that it doesn't support DirectX 11. Update your graphic drivers if you are on Windows 10 and still don't get DX11 to work. these problems will be sorted at some point, and definitely when 1.35 goes final. Someone calls himself a coward for sticking to 134. I won't call you a coward at all. I would call you a very, very wise person. Do not update to 1.35. This is, after all, the experimental beta. It is not the open beta, and it's definitely not the final version of 1.35. Most users should stay on 134 for at least the next 6 weeks. When we get closer to the final beta, you could probably think about doing an update just to see if things works on 135, to verify that things work or prepare for 135, and then of course revert back to 134 if there are things that don't work. But we are a long way away from 135, and in some 5-6 weeks or something like that, I will post a video on how to prepare for 135. But at the moment there is no reason really to prepare you for 135, because your game won't automatically be updated for 135 in many moons. It's gonna take a long time before your game gets updated automatically to 135, so don't worry about it. It's all fine, and it's all gonna be fine. And when we get closer to 135, I'll do a video on how to prepare for it, because there are preparations that you always should do before you update to a new major version of the game. For instance, get rid of all your truck mods on your profiles, all your trailer mods, whatever mods you have on your profile before updating, so that your profile doesn't crash because you have an incompatible truck or trailer mod that you are actively using, or anything other that prevents you from just removing them and starting the profile up. There are situations where that happens, when you can't load the profile even without any mods at all, because there are still active mods on the profile that prevents the profile from loading. So we're going to go through that, and but that is, as I said, at least 6 weeks away, if not more. So as you have seen, I've been hauling a little bit here on Grand Utopia to start with, then on the Iran map. I also haul a little bit on the Greece map, and then finally right now I'm hauling on the Legionnaire map, and I might do a video review of that sometimes very soon, and as soon as I have completed that, I will, possibly before, let's see what happens, I will revert to DX9 and start all over again and go through mainly my add-on maps, because those seems to be the maps we have the most problems with. With that said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you don't feel that the future is as dark after watching this as some of you at least felt after my release, my previous video release. So hopefully I've cleared things up a little bit and you aren't as worried now for 135 as you were yesterday. You shouldn't be worried about 135. Everything is going to be just fine. With that said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video this time, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, and this time feel free to give me a thumbs down as well if you didn't enjoy the video. I'm just a messenger, but hey, I can't stop you. Take care everyone. Bye bye.